Welcome back. Episode 70 of the Ground Up podcast.
We all love building stuff, right? If you can take us back to when we were 2, 3, 4, I guarantee we would start playing in the sand, playing with diggers, taking something that was redundant or old and making something that's usable for future generations. And that's what I enjoy doing.
What the fuck happened? In the 70s and 80s, you'd get money out like that if you got a relationship with a banker. I got debanked. We're closing all your banks, which was 25 bank accounts. This company, we're closing. This company, this company.
So literally like that, we couldn't get into our bank account, we couldn't make payments, we couldn't receive rents, we couldn't pay the contractor.
Capital One stripped 300 bank accounts from me. 300 in the middle of the night. Cryptocurrency that's actually removed a lot of the power from the big banks who have weaponized their platforms.
He is playing with, I am going to fucking change the banking system. This guy's called Alfie. He's with me today. He's at college, but he works 3 jobs.
First thing you need to do, Alfie, ignore everything he says.
When he just rolled out of bed, that was quite impressive, mate. The number one rule is people buy from people. Charismatic, he's a good looking chap and he's confident. So he's my next prodigy. Let's see how we go.
No pressure, Alfie.
Ground up sound, ooh, yeah. Real estate deals. We lay them down, let's get those deals. Deals, deals, making money, baby.
Welcome back. Episode 70 of the Ground Up podcast. If you're new to the pod and you don't know who we are 4 property developers from the UK. We run multiple types of businesses within our sector. And every week we get around the mic and we chat shop about property, business, money, the news, fun stuff, sometimes not so fun stuff. As of late, some pretty negative stuff about the government and about our economy. But look, it's the reality of where we are. If you enjoy this kind of stuff, then make sure you subscribe, share the content with anyone who you think may find it useful, and stick around. You know, there's not really a clear kind of structure to these pods. We kind of have a load of topics that we want to talk about, and we hash out ideas, and we get each other's feedback on stuff, and sometimes we just waffle on. So hopefully you find it useful. We've got Jack Jiggins, Stuart Wyeth, Dorian Payne, though Dorian's usually late. Fashionably late. He's a diva.
Getting later, isn't he?
He's getting later. Yeah, he is. And then got myself Ryan Beaumont. And enjoy the episode, guys. Subscribe. And we should start with a bit of an announcement, you know, because we're putting on a live event. That is the plan. It's going to be locked in now. Well, we've paid the deposit for the venue, so it's definitely been locked in.
We're going.
Yeah, we're going to be there. So if you want to show up, please do. Jack, do you want to give some details on this one, mate?
Of course. So I think one of the reasons we set up the pod is not only do we enjoy chatting and sort of cutting through the crap in the market, and I find it difficult to find really good business and property events nowadays. So we're like, let's take what we do in a podcast capacity and make a live event. So it'll be very informal, very chilled, but we're talking serious stuff. We're there to try and help our audience and the people in our audience not only see each other face to face and build relationships with people doing similar things to themselves and support each other, but also to cut through the bullshit. You know, we're not here to sell courses and get you to run to the back of the room. We're here to enjoy ourselves, make a sort of very informal but information heavy event, so it's valuable to you guys. We got a really cool venue in central London, which we've booked, and is on the 9th of January. So once you sort of get that turkey out of the way and New Year's out of the way, you're going to be coming in fresh, hungry for the year, and we're going to be going through all of the typical things that we discussed. So business and the importance of running a business and how you can start and scale and grow a business. We're going to be talking through developments like commercial conversions, ground up developments, and then we'll go through buy-to-lets, HMOs, bit of crypto. I'm sure Stu and Ryan will be leading on that. And then one thing I'm most excited for is we're going to do like an actual live episode that will be recorded, but it won't be for everyone. So if you want to see a live episode and actually do Q&A while we're there, we'll finish off the day with that, and then obviously some social drinks afterwards. So, but super exciting. And we're, you know, if you're interested, definitely make sure you get a DM to us in some capacity, because we think it will sell out pretty quickly. I mean, we typically get 5x views on our videos to the amount of capacity that we can actually take in the room on the 9th of January. So make sure you hit us up if you are interested.
Yeah, stay tuned on the socials, guys, and we'll maybe by the time this video lands in about 2 weeks, we might have a link in the description. Don't quote me on that, but we should do over coming weeks, and we'll keep announcing it and reminding everyone on the podcast. We'll be building a bit of a marketing campaign for it as well. And yeah, like Jack said, we just want to create a more kind of intimate rapport between us and our audience. And it's just more useful, you know, when you're in a room with useful people and you can have that engagement, that feedback back and forth, and meet great people who actually operate in the space, then we feel like that's the value GroundUp can add to people's lives, as well as being free online content, but actually an in-person community as well. Pricing and things like that we'll talk about in another episode. We're still kind of putting everything together and the itinerary for the day, but there'll be a nice landing page and a link that you can grab on our socials, I am sure. There'll be early bird tickets as well, as standard early bird. There'll be discounts for anyone in the GroundUp network as well, heavy discounts. So make sure you join the GroundUp network, and yeah, it's gonna be fun, man. Fucking gassed.
Jack and I announced it on Wednesday's call with some of the guys on there, and they're all they're all like, yeah, we're in, definitely. We joined the group not just for the educational piece, but for the social piece as well. And we enjoy, I mean, I spend every other Wednesday with Jack online speaking to the guys, and it's just lovely to hear their stories. Some of them are still looking for sites, some of them are just wanting some reassurance, some are well and truly into their scheme and are having some real life problems on their sites that they want to just run past and get an opinion of what we would do. So it's very much like a round table online chat, which we all love. And there's some excellent people on there with some great skills. So it would just be nice for the event for us to sit around in a non-formal environment. There'll be a few one-to-ones. There'll be plenty of breaks and time for us to chat to the people who listen to the podcast, and we want to get to know a bit better and ask them for more ideas about this podcast. Like, we love chatting anyway. We'll do this if no one was watching. It just disciplines us to get together once a week to have a catch up anyway on our lives, because running a business can be quite lonely, and starting a business can be even more of a mountain to climb. And I think if you're around other like-minded people, it just makes it so much easier. And you can gain the cheat sheet as well. Like, you can find out, well, I wouldn't do this because this could be the repercussions. Do this, this, and this, and this will 10x your journey. And I think that is really what we're trying to do, is to try and help as many people get out of this rat race and working for people and have a go and have a stab at it themselves. So yeah, looking forward to it. 9th of January, we'll be there. Hopefully a few of you will join us, and we'll see how it goes.
We will be there. But yeah, we were going to do it slightly earlier, but we gave ourselves a nice lead time just so we can really get the itinerary, everything planned, and we're going to try and bring some branded shirts. And there's just a lot to think about. And obviously, we're all running day jobs as well, so we right, housekeeping out of the way. That's actually proper housekeeping as well. Usually we just start by chatting bollocks, but that was some proper updates coming out of the ground up, growing enterprise. Guys, you got anything for the week you want to update, Stu? Anything happening? Anything?
Doing any more courses?
No more courses this week, but I have been doing our new inspection checklists for sites, health and safety policy updates. Like, I'm on it. I'm well on it this week. So yeah, it's been good to sort of focus the mind on some specific tasks. I can never say that word. Specific tasks. I've got a young lad that's joining me in a few minutes. It's 8:00. He's going to try to stay off camera, but I'm going to ask him if he wants to come on for 5 minutes and say hello. He's called Alfie. He's a young lad, absolutely a little machine. Very charismatic young lad. He's got 3 jobs at the moment. He's coming out of college. He doesn't really know what path to take. So he's going to spend the day with me. We're going to go whip round 3 or 4 sales appointments today. Going to go whip round a few live building sites, just give him a bit of a taste of what we get up to. He very much reminds me of myself when I was 18, like pumped for it, wanted to do something, didn't know what to do really. Would be an architect or a pilot or a fucking bus driver. I don't know what I wanted to do, work in B&Q. So he's very much in that mindset, and I think he's got the discipline to make it. So if I can help him, and hopefully if he wants to do sales, he can have a go at a few leads. If he wants to do some stuff on site, but I said to him, I promised him over the summer he could come and do a few days with us. So yeah, that's happening today. Apart from that, this week's been pretty good. I think we're just cracking on our building sites, and lofts are going pretty well. Megan's off in a few weeks, which is a very, very scary time because she does so much. When she goes, I'm gonna have to go back in the office for like 2 days a week, I think, just to work again. just to try and make sure we don't have any huge issues. But it'll all be fine. We just need her to go now. When she goes, no disrespect, she needs to go and have a baby and do 9 months, and then we can take care of all the emails, all the inbound work, and divvy it up and make the new system. So that's what we're all gearing ourselves up for in the next 3 or 4 weeks. So that's my week.
Beautiful, mate. Lovely. Jack?
Yeah, just chugging along, really. I feel there's a lot of people away at the moment, both in other businesses and also in our business. We've got a few projects coming to completion. I will actually share, I shared earlier, my grandfather's measuring tool that I found in his belongings, which is pretty cool and ironic now. I run a surveying business. Yeah, not too much to report on, really. We've got quite a big bid out on our site, which I'm pretty confident about, which would be a lovely site to add into our pipeline. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it's about 12 mil GDV in London, which I'm still fairly confident we'll hear back on that. So that'll be a bit of a rocket up the arse to get capital raising and get the deal funded and push that one forward. But yeah, I'm noticing it's like there's a lot of market sentiment at the moment and I don't really want to scare everyone from development, but it's bloody hard work. And we've been banging on about it for years, how planning, funding, compliance, all of that sort of stuff. But I'm hearing it more and more and more. I spoke to someone that's very experienced and sort of 40 years in the city and the industry, probably one of the highest paid consultants in the industry for social housing and development. And he's moved into Bitcoin, believe it or not. I think, Stu, you'd love me here saying that, because he's just saying that we have to work so much harder to get what we had before. And I think the SMEs are starting to realize that there was always this, golden pot at the end of the rainbow for each developer, and I feel that a lot of people are just sort of saying it's fucking hard work now. And someone said to me the other day, who I did a deal with 10 years ago, who kind of stepped away from property because he got his hands burned in a deal, and obviously not by me. And he sort of stepped away from it, and I don't know what he did, but he said he's coming back into it now. What he was like, what's hot? What do you think's worthwhile working on? And I was just like, HMOs, nice and simple, low risk, good income. It's very manageable. You don't really need planning in most cases for what we do. But development is challenging. I'm an optimist at heart, and if someone comes to me sort of eager-eyed and wants to do developments, I don't necessarily downplay it. But I think we would really struggle as a business if we didn't have the extended team that we do to take on what we do. We've got a lot of skill and expertise and employable value in our team, and I just think if you haven't got that, it's very difficult to get there. And then it's difficult once you've got there, because you need that skills and expertise and ideas bounced off, and it's tough at the moment.
Me and you've done a few times, we've mentioned this now, Jack, together, about the bigger sites, and just because we both do bigger sites, as actually Stuart does as well, because the lofts are essentially smaller sites, smaller dev sites, right? But they're just not, yeah. So all three of us, I suppose Darren is the lone wolf there. All three of us jump between big fucking stress, capital outlay, appeasing investors, shit that never moves when you want it to move, and then like small, quicker, more formulated wins and churning around that higher kind of stock flow. I do think it does make you question yourself on ambitions to grow sites, to grow the size of sites. I think it's something only a developer can understand, because like looking at development projects, there's all this intuition around, well, the bigger the site, the more you can dilute certain fixed costs, and then your pound for pound time spent should be better the bigger the site is. But there's more to it than that. It's the stress and the bullshit. I think bullshit is actually more, the stress isn't actually, that's something you can handle, right? But the bullshit, like just shit you got to answer for monitoring surveyors, for planning consultants, for the planning officers, surveys, waiting time. We've just done a second bat survey that was 6 months waiting for this next breeding season and whatever, and it just all feels like such nonsense. And I think it's demoralizing. I think it demoralizes you a bit.
Do you know the big thing with what Jack said, yeah, and what you just said is like there's fast pounds and slow pounds. Like the big stuff is clunky, it's high risk. The smaller transactions mean that you can cash flow smaller risks but at a higher frequency. So you can almost play that money off against the big stuff. The problem I find with the big stuff is it's all the unforeseens. It doesn't matter how much you spend on QSs and prep and reports and all the shit you have to do from a legal perspective and before you put boots on the ground and start building. But it's also knowing what costs come up that you can't see. So, like for instance, our Twickenham site, we've taken all the roof off now, and it's how far do you want to go of an existing building? You're pretty much rebuilding that building inside the building. So you're repointing brickwork, you're sorting out old rotten lintels, things that you wouldn't know if it had timber lintels or concrete lintels. None of this stuff you'd know until you expose it, and that's why I think conversions are the highest type of development risk that you can take. I mean, Jim, I was up there with him a few weeks ago, and he literally had to repoint his whole mill. And that's £1,000, £1,200 a day every day for weeks on end, and he's going up there every few weeks, going, when's this going to end? It's like still got to do the chimney this side. It's like these things that yes, he put an allowance in, and he's used the best QS he can work with and find, and yet it still bleeds money. And I think that's the other problem with this stuff. And if the interest rates were lower, mortgage rates were lower, there was some growth in the market, then it does help with the capital. I mean, we do it for capital expense. People invest in property for the long-term appreciation. And when there isn't any appreciation, and there hasn't been for 3 or 4 years now, in fact, it's been going down. So we're fighting against the tide for the last 3 or 4 years. And I think that the new guys getting into this without knowing this stuff and what to look for, they might be going a bit too optimistic, and they get to the end and go, fuck, we've actually lost money or made no money. And that's really where it's tough for everyone. But that's because we're fighting an economic tidal wave that we have no control over, and that's the biggest downfall in our business, is that we are led. And that's why I love the other side of the flip coin, which is the Bitcoin world. And there's a video which we're going to play on in a second, which is about the banks. And
Just to touch on this a bit more, because at the moment, one of the biggest electric concerns is getting on the housing ladder. That's one of the biggest concerns in the demographic of the UK, particularly in young people, mostly young people who obviously don't own a home yet. They want to get on the housing ladder. We're talking here at the coalface of that delivery point, that vector between no houses existing and it's just being some office building or a parcel piece of land, and turning that into housing for people. Yes, we have to make money in that delivery process like every other fucking industry, which is just this mental rhetoric that development should be done for free or whatever so that people can afford them. But people just don't get that it is the bureaucracy and the stupidity and mismanagement of government that it is directly affecting the housing delivery. And we're talking and complaining about that right now, but actually we're complaining about one of the causes for the biggest concern of the UK demographic, but they're not aware of the stuff we're aware of. So can we do a quick, what's your top 3 things that either demoralize you or make life very tricky for you to deliver developments? Like, top of your head, what are the top 3 things, starting with Stu?
3 things to make our lives complicated would be the fucking pre-construction costs and actually getting on the ground to get building stuff. We all love building stuff, right? If you could take us back to when we were 2, 3, 4, I guarantee we used to like playing in the sand, playing with diggers, getting on with stuff and transforming stuff. And that's what brought me into architecture and construction, was taking something that was redundant or old and making it into a hotel suite or something that's usable for future generations. And that's what I enjoy doing. It's all the fucking bullshit around it. The biggest thing I hate about being a developer is taking all the risk on my shoulders. Whether it's the upfront soft costs, it's the risk with the borrowing of the money. It's the equity piece is I feel like I would sell my house and one of my kids to pay back the equity if I was to borrow money from someone. That's how much I feel that's an important factor. But you've got all the construction risks, the fixed price costs, the weight of paying everyone, making sure everyone's paid on time, being held accountable for money that's due in from a bank that's lent it to you on the fact that they're going to lend it to you when they say. We haven't had that problem, but I know that other people have had that problem where they haven't been paid out when they've been promised. So that whole package of stress and pressure for not a huge reward. 10 years ago, you're doing it and you're making £1 million, or you're making 20%, 25, 30% on your return, well worth the risk all day long. If you're doing it and you're making 7, 10, 12, 15%, there's a point where it just doesn't become worth it. And then on the flip side of that, I'm learning and spending a load of time, and I'm really hoping on the 9th of January, I will get the stage of half an hour to do my Bitcoin journey, because I've thought in my mind how I want to I don't want to promote what Bitcoin is. I just want to tell people what I thought when on my journey and what started to turn the tide and why I believe so much about what I do. And I think that would be quite good to do. So I'm going to work on that over the period before. But learning about that and then fighting this tide, it's very easy to sort of shift attention and go, actually, why am I trying to build an income, which is why I'm doing it. I'm building income to create extra cash flow to buy more Bitcoin. That was always my strategy, and that's what I'm going to do with the pitch on. But yeah, I was doing it just to turn more pounds, to buy into more developments, to get more stressed, to do more bigger sites, to do more stress, to make potentially less money. That's what would kill me off.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I think I'm appreciating this. Some of our listeners, and I know this from some feedback I've gotten from people, they're not developers. So we might talk about stuff like pre-construction and they won't necessarily be sympathetic. So I completely agree. Pre-construction is one of my peeves as well. And what that means, just for the benefit of our viewers, is before you get onto a site, a consented site, so you've got planning, you have to discharge what could be a whole load of planning conditions. You have to do a whole load of surveys and everything else. This is post planning as well. Like, you've got planning as well, where there's all these other drawings and surveys you need to do. And then you've got appeasing your lender if you're getting development finance. So that's where the lender will give you short-term debt to deliver the scheme and pay for a lot of the costs. But you pay a crazy rate of interest. They tie you up. You basically put your house on the line, personal guarantees and everything else. And that can sink a lot of developers. We all know people who got sunk over the last few years because of things like that. And you're doing all of this stuff as a tick box bureaucratic exercise to appease various stakeholders, environmental stuff, ESG stuff, like all this bollocks that congests the housing delivery. And that's just one facet. Then there's planning itself, would be my other big peeve. And the biggest one really is just the state of our banking sector, the financial sector, and the economy, AML, and just the hoops you got to jump through to try and access finance. What the fuck happened? Like, in the 70s and 80s, you'd get money out like that if you got a relationship with a banker. They take a bet on you. They've got rapport. Now it's like you are like it's like you're treated like a fucking first grade criminal before they'll vet you and go through every nth degree of who you are and where'd you get your money from. It takes like 3 months just to get some money that they've got security against anyway in the asset, and they're taking your personal guarantees, and they're charging you an extortion rate of interest. Like, I think those three things, the bureaucracy, and pre-construction is a good example of that. Planning, more bureaucracy, and then all the bureaucracy that's embedded itself in the financial sector that's making access to finance much more difficult. Those three things there are the stem of why housing is becoming impossible to deliver. It's nothing to do with greedy developers or greedy landlords. Everyone's just trying to make money. We respond to the market dynamics, but it's been so distorted and trying to be centrally planned by the government and by financial institutions that they're completely fucking it. And I know most SMEs are feeling the same way because we feel the brunt of all this bullshit, and it is really demoralizing. But this podcast is about being transparent, right? For anyone who thinks we're complaining, we're trying to just be transparent about how we're feeling. Go on.
I've got an interesting one. So you basically both said planning and banks, and I completely agree there in that my top three as well. So planning, obviously, time, lack of pragmatism. I feel they're quite self-righteous in their world, and they if anything want to prevent you doing work rather than promote you doing work and working with you. Banks, I think there's realistically the two main winners in property development are debt lenders and the tax man. And then the one I wanted to add to that, which is political, because we haven't touched on it yet, is suppression of the economy and movement. I don't think it should cost you 40 grand to move home, and that is the taxation in you selling your home and buying a new one in the stamp duty. And I feel that the UK person should be able to move more freely, and there should be breaks for that, and that then promotes economy move. People move locations, people move jobs, businesses can grow, businesses can thrive, and that's not really, they could get that back in certain ways in stamp duty and land tax, because there's other ways around it. So that was my only third point. And I completely agree with you, Rai, where you say that developers have a reputation of being greedy. And that is because they're essentially just a business owner. Why are developers coined as greedy when, if you look at a baker that's just opened a shop on the corner of a road, they're competing with Sainsbury's, Tesco's. That's all we're doing.
Jack, it's because we're exploiting people's human rights for housing.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. But anyway, I've got an interesting question for you. If developers, so to flip anyone's view of developers being greedy, let's play a scenario out. So let's say there's a desert island and you have a property developer, you have a planning officer, you have a senior underwriter of a bank, and then you have someone in politics on that island. Who are you going to bet on that's going to still be alive and get off that fucking island? The developer. Because we're entrepreneurial, we get shit done, and we might not be the smartest on the island, but we're all about getting traction, moving that 1% every day, and we don't dilly-dally and fucking waste time and worry about, oh, well, you know, can't go in there, it's salty water.
But Jack, who's getting eaten first in that analogy? Who's getting eaten first?
I think the politician is getting eaten first by the fish, sucker fish, yeah. And then we'd eat him.
Sucked alive. Fucking awful. But yeah, I mean, you know, we're
all basically C-grade students.
We're
just
tribal
do whatever
leaders.
it takes.
We're tribal leaders. I always like to revert back to the good old days of cavemanship. Who is actually going to be the one that's running the show, but sticking their neck out and taking responsibility on for the colony, and taking risks, and that is all about the developers,
baby. It'd be great to bring sort of layman,
caveman on a caveman.
It'd be great if we could find a fucking caveman.
Yeah,
that'd be sick. Maybe find D. But if we could bring someone on to just see, because I do speak to lay people about not to be diminishing to people who don't understand development, but because it's such a ubiquitous thing, the thing we do. Like, everyone needs a house, everyone needs an apartment, everyone works in buildings. All these big infrastructure things around us have to come from somewhere, come from people and who plan and put their neck on the line and shit like that. And it's just the average Joe has just no idea about what it's like to deliver housing, and they just think that we make loads of money. And I'm just like, yeah, you can make loads of money after years and years and years of probably not making loads of money and risking everything. But there has to be a reward for building this stuff, and the government can't do it, because that's usually what people say to me. It's like, well, why don't you just, if it's that stressful, why don't you just leave it to the government to do it? And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, you understand that would just massively increase housing costs, because government is shit at doing everything that they do. They'll always increase the base cost. And also, where does that money come from? Then it's all coming from the taxpayer to build our housing. It's just not, that's just not the solution. The solution is...
They can't even build a railway line, right? There's no way they're going to build a housing corporation to manage the amount we need. They can barely build tents in fields.
It's just mental, and like, there needs to be more education. Hopefully that we're doing our little bit here for any viewers that aren't in property, for them to try and learn and understand this delivery cycle for one of the most important pieces of infrastructure in the UK, which is housing. But anyway, let's move on from that and go to your piece, D. Stu. So this piece here, we're going to play a video clip. And I mean, this will set all the context.
Well, this leads into what we were saying about the banks, right? So we all run small businesses. So imagine running a small business, and it'll be interesting if anyone's got if been in this situation, have been debanked before. Just leave a comment below, or a little sentence or two, and we'll read them and try and come back to them on a future episode. But it's actually it's happened to me once, and it was so frustrating. But imagine being Eric Trump, or running the Trump organization, corporation, and being debanked because your dad was running for president.
I mean,
and
in all fairness,
go on.
In all fairness, Eric probably just gave Daddy a ring and squared him away.
They were trying to debank him. They were trying to cancel him before they tried to kill him. This is when he lost the election. So 4 years up, when Biden was in there, the establishment were basically trying to cancel Trump, break him down as much as they could. And the powers, the donors of banks like JP Morgan Chase and all the people who pay the Democrats, were basically trying to do everything they could to bring the Trump party down. And look at the anger in his eyes. He's not playing with cryptocurrency. He is playing with, I am going to fucking change the banking system, and I'm going to win, you motherfuckers. This is why this video is so good. And also, let's watch it first and we'll talk about it after.
All right, here we go.
Those headlines.
Brian, it's infuriating. We had nowhere to go. Capital One stripped 300 bank accounts from me. 300 in the middle of the night. They sent us a letter after doing business for 20-something years. All your bank accounts for golf courses and condominium buildings and hotels, they're all gone in the middle of the night. I mean, how do you pay your taxes? How do you pay your employees? This happened across the board. It happened with JP Morgan Chase. It happened with Bank of America. It happened with First Republic. And this wasn't just happening to the Trumps, people with a lot of zeros on the end. This was happening to conservatives all over the country. We didn't have a damn choice. So before my father, won the election, before my father was in office, we started getting into cryptocurrency. The people in cryptocurrency were being debanked just like Trump was being debanked.
Right.
And you know what? It's become the fastest growing industry anywhere in the world. It's actually removed a lot of the power from the big banks who have weaponized their platforms against the American people. And I could not be more proud to be.
That is determination if I've ever seen it.
That is. And let me add to this, because this is the perfect week for it. Last Friday, I got debanked. So Metro just sent us an email out of the blue. I say out of the blue, I'll add the context after. Basically went, we're closing all your banks, which was about 25 bank accounts, every single one. They started with one and they went, this company, we're closing, this company, this company, this company. And then over the weekend, every single bank, all our SPVs, all our trading vehicles, everything's closing. Now, we have a good relationship with Metro. We've always had a good relationship with the bank manager there. And they sent us an inquiry about 4 months ago, where they were questioning a load of transactions. And I don't want to long out all the details here because it can get quite boring. But essentially, they'd send us an email with extensive questions about certain transactions and the nature of those transactions. And do we have invoices for those transactions? And did we AML all those transactions? And fucking hell. And so we responded. And essentially, they would. I think the main sticking point for them was AML. That's the whole thing. And again, this is why AML is this, and we've spoke about this and bitched about this. AML is criminal how they've done this to SMEs and small people. We're not AML people, not anti-money laundering officers. I don't have the fucking resource to go and find out if someone's fraudulent. They've passed on all that responsibility to us. And some transactions, obviously, we deal with large chunks of money. We could have, like this week, we had a forward payment for a bigger site. It's 120 grand just drops in the bank account. And they're questioning things like that, thinking we're holding money on account for clients. And we're like, no, look at the nature of these businesses. Here's the servicing contracts. We're delivering a service. They're paying us for construction activities. They're paying us for development services, like a project manager. These are just services rendered. Like, why is this a difficult thing? There's no point where we're holding client funds to then buy a property for them, like solicitors. It all goes through solicitors' accounts. This is a whole different thing. And we substantiated all of it. But still, after 4 months, they must have done all their checks and went back and went, you're deemed too risky for us. Now, Metro specifically went through issues in 2018 with solvency. They got bailed out a little bit. I think a load of equity came in and restabilized them. And then it happened again, I think last year, possibly the year before. And I think it's just that their risk mandate's too high and they deem us a high risk. But that's just crazy. That's crazy. Like, it's just mental. Fortunately, we have 3 months. So unlike Trump Jr. there, who's got who had it overnight, I just couldn't imagine the turmoil that would cause us, like absolute turmoil. But we still have to resort all of these banks, pass over the mandates, all the direct debits, standing orders, everything else, find different banks. They've said to us as well, they won't give us a good reference. They've said they'll give us a zero reference, basically, which just means there's no like, yeah, look, these are good guys. They basically just go, we have nothing to say. So that means we're going to have to convince another bank to go, no, look, and substantiate everything. We're creating a pitch deck for that to explain to the bank, showing our corporate structure, how it all works. Why do we have to go through this bollocks to bank? Like, it is mental. So I'm literally at the coalface of this exact thing. Different story if it's overnight, blanket, you're shut down, and then you've got I just couldn't imagine. I think all three of us would be in turmoil, right? If that happened, you'd be.
Yeah, we actually had an overnight closure by HSBC. So we were developing the mill, which is 14 flats. It is an SPV, so it's slightly diluted in terms of how bad it was or how detrimental it was. But we had a monthly mortgage payment to make, which was about 10 grand. We had rents coming in from about 12 tenants because we were renovating flat by flat. And we were paying our contractor every 2 weeks, you could say. The HSBC, so we actually bought the company. So we bought the company that had the asset in it. And when we bought the company that had the asset in it, we inherited a HSBC account. We don't have any other HSBC accounts. They sent us a letter to the to basically the company which was addressed where the asset is. So it's 14 flats in a tiny little office, and they were supposed to send a letter to that office. Obviously, we don't go to site every day, and equally, the letter that they sent went to one of the block of flats next door. There's a similar address, and we never got the letter. So literally, like that, we couldn't get into our bank account, we couldn't make payments, we couldn't receive rents, we couldn't pay the contractor, we couldn't pay our mortgage, which was 10 grand a month. And we contacted them. We're like, what the fuck's going on? And they basically said, we sent you a letter for a request for information. We didn't hear back from you, so we shut it. And I'm like, well, hang on a second. If you send an untracked or unsigned for letter, how can you guarantee that the director of that company has actually received it? And they didn't really have an answer, essentially. And I said, well, can I change my preference settings so that you email me rather than send this fucking wild goose chase of a letter shaped like a paper airplane and just throw it into the abyss of Abingdon? Eventually, we managed to get it back open, but that took 3.5 months. So for 3.5 months, we had to cash flow, no rents coming in, paying the contractor and paying the mortgage from a different company.
It's crazy. Like, we talk about, housing being a human right. Your bank account is like, I'd say human rights a bit of a stretch, but they can't do this. It's so pernicious. Like, it's just, and to do it for AML reasons or political reasons, which is not the reason why they've done it to me, obviously, but the reason why they've done it, or Jack, but the reason they've done it to Trump. Well, you never know. Maybe. I mean, HMRC they've been known now, haven't they, to track your social media and follow what you're doing on social media as investigative, like, fucking journalists, and then matching that with your tax returns and seeing if you are spending the money in the way you say you are. Like, what? What's going on? Anyway, D. Hello, D. How you doing?
Oh yeah, sorry I'm late, guys. It's all went a bit south for me. God, we obviously booking this in. I was meant to have a tennis lesson, which I cancelled, and then yesterday I ended up at an event for FIFA Talent Wales. Basically, their feeder. No, it feels like it, doesn't it? But I was a feeder academy, and I must have had like 20 coffees yesterday, and so I didn't get to bed till like really late, and then as soon as I woke up, I looked at my phone.
You had a heavy
You look
night, Dean?
tired, mate.
Fuck,
You look
I've,
tired.
You look knackered, mate.
I've let the ground up guys down. Huh? Oh mate, I am knackered. But I literally not even had a coffee yet. Again, so
He's got that early morning
like,
taste. Look,
D, you're probably wondering who this
Yeah.
chap is. This guy's called Alfie. He's with me today. He's
I know.
he's at college, but he works 3 jobs. Totally charismatic, lovely guy, very approachable. He's going to spend the day with me today. I promised him a few days, a bit of work experience. So we're going out to see a few customers, see a few building sites today. How old are you? 17. So I thought he was 18. 17. Young gun.
Yeah.
What jobs do you do, Alfie?
Fish and chip
What
shop.
are you doing?
And I work at this
Oh yeah. Oh nice. They were always popular in my year when teenagers were doing that. They were always
that's what I
invited to
used
the
to do. I
parties,
used to
house
come after
parties. Like,
work.
make sure you bring a bag
And
of fish and chips with you.
I see Stuart a lot over at this lake I work.
That's right,
at,
yeah.
Mitchett. They got swimming and water sports and stuff. Yeah, he's always there.
Swim in the lake, mate.
Sunbathing, is he? Yeah. That's why he's not. That's why he doesn't answer his phone.
They've got a sauna and a swim
too?
that he also works on, which I've not used yet, but they've got these lovely log cabins. Oh, it looks lovely down there. All log burning woods and stuff with big views of the lake.
Right. First thing you need to do, Alfie, after you've met with Stuart, is number one, ignore everything he says. And no, I'm only joking. No, look, he's a top guy. So also Stuart's very credible to spending time to help younger generation. But get the one book helped me when I was young, Alfie. It's called and I don't know whether it's still popular now. Probably is, but. It's very cliche in
Napoleon
the
Hill.
self-development world. Think and Grow Rich. I think I read it when I was like 15. Yeah, and I was always ambitious anyway, but it helped me set like more clear plans and goals. So
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good to meet you, man. Stu was saying at the start of this, he's going to stick you on 80 grand a year, start selling some lofts. Sounds like a beautiful dream, mate. What is the
We're going to go out today and have a cup of teas with some customers, get up in some lofts, have a look, see what he thinks of the job. I mean, at his age, I was like 18. So I was working at B&Q at his age and trying to get him an architectural degree. So, and then I got thrown into a few appointments, and yeah, away we go. So,
And you haven't stopped talking since.
And I haven't stopped talking since. That is my trade, basically.
Do you know what, though? It's the most important aspect of any business.
That's awesome, mate.
I've
Yeah,
been talking about sales guys we've been hiring for our business, and sales is everything. If business don't have sales, it ain't got fuck all. There's no revenue coming in the door. So you're going to learn from the pro.
What do you reckon's more important though, Ryan? Sales or marketing? Like lead gen,
I mean,
find on
marketing's great,
is
but if you can't
solid.
sell them and you can't close them,
I think if you could live with one, you could live with sales, but you cannot live without sales, but you can live without marketing.
yeah. And Stu is a fucking wizard at these sales. So what's the plan, Stu? Like, how are you gonna like structure it for Alfie?
Couple of cups of tea with the clients.
A cup of tea. We're going to go sit in people's kitchens in a minute. So we're off to where are we off to next? We've got one at 9 o'clock
exposure
in Basingstoke. So we've got about half an hour left, and then we're going over to Farnham. Then I've got a lunch gap in, so I'm going to take him for a nice steak dinner. And then 2 o'clock we've got one in Camberley, and then we're going to the office. We're going to go and see a few sites as well. So yeah, be a busy day.
Again, just to pick your brain for the viewers' benefit as well. So you're bringing plans to bring Alfie into like a sales capacity, so fee earning activity. Do you have like a structure or like a sales approach, or are you just going to expose him, show him how you do things, and then kind of build?
Number one thing with someone who's young, they have to be able to drive because they need the independence to be able to come and meet around. So I started by basically picking up materials because I worked at B&Q. I knew if they needed a length of timber or whatever they needed, I would be able to go to B&Q, pick it up and get it to sites. That got me off the scaffolding as quick as possible. And then it got me office bound where I could sit and be around the problems and the heat and paying the creditors and learning the frequency of business. Then that business went bust, so I saw why it went bust and the cash flow. Then went to work into sales. I was doing 50% design, 50% sales. So my plan with Alfie is to get him in to see all aspects of the business, from accounts, bookkeeping, data entry, through to pre-construction, pre-delivery, planning, through to working with the architects, through to coming to do a few sales with me, and just see where he naturally feels comfortable. And if there's something in that he likes, then we can do something. He's got another year at college, haven't he? Or you finished?
Still got another.
He's got another year at college, so he can do a few bits.
So,
Nice.
Alfie, did you what was the key lessons you learned from your stint in the fish and chip shop? You know, did you practice any sales skills there, like upselling? You know, it's like, oh, I'll have a sausage and chips.
normally
Have you ever
offer
tried the
people want
battered
to change
sausage and
it,
chips?
They don't look at the money of it.
Just kick on the side.
They'll just tap the card at the end. Anyway.
Every sales process follows the exact same route and technique, which is preparation, research, know who you're speaking to, why you're going in there. You then have the introduction, which is really important rapport building to make them feel comfortable and pull back a layer to give the opportunity to sell. So that's the introduction, rapport building. Then it goes, you can watch this back so you can make notes and see how Stu does it. So research and prep, introduction and rapport building. You've then got qualification. You obviously want to make sure that they are right for it, because otherwise you're wasting your time on the pitch. That's probably less relevant in your scenario, because when you're in their front room or kitchen, you know they want a loft, and that's already, that part's already done for Skyloft. But if you're doing cold calls, you don't necessarily know if that assessment or qualification is the right person. Then presentation, which is the pitch, your value proposition, what you are offering them. Typically, before you go into the proposition, the more you know, open questions, more open questions at the beginning, the more you find out about what that person's drivers are, and makes your value proposition a lot easier. So if I say, what are you looking for? What's important to you? Very open questions. They then say, well, what's really important to me is I don't want to disrupt the rest of the house because I often have my grandkids over. Right, we'll have, this is how we value, this is why we're different to other companies. You then go into, once you've got the presentation, make they understand it. And then you ask them questions. Do they have any reservations? And you objection handle. So an objection is them saying, oh, I'm a little bit nervous about this, a little bit nervous about that. Get all of those handled, and then you close them. And then if you haven't closed them there and then, you follow up. And that's the same process for any sales.
Do you know what that reminds me of, Jack? Do you know what reminds me of there? That reminds me of Jordan Belfort's straight line sales system, which is a 6-step system. And Alfie, this is important because Jordan Belfort obviously he did a lot of
Wolf of
bad
Wall
things and
Street
some
for
good things as
everyone's
well
benefit.
with his straight line sales method. And Wolf of Wall Street. And the first part of it was in his straight, because I studied this and I used to role play with some of my team because sales skills is obviously important. First one is take control. Take control of you want to be in control. Every sale follows the same path as Jack says, and you want to make sure you know when it's off the line, and you want to take control of the environment, dominate it like Stuart will.
Where's the sugar?
You'll see him flying around people's kitchens. He won't be sitting down. If you've got
Don't
him,
worry, I'll
control
take the
him.
dog out for a
Yeah,
walk.
yeah. Opening cupboards. Yeah. Number two. Number two. Build rapport, as Jack said. You've got to build rapport. They got to like you. And three, you've got to get information from them. You've got to gather information. You've got to get questions. And then four, once you've got the information, you can present the sale in the correct way. And then you spend most of your time with the sale. Apparently, actually only begins at this stage now. Number five is the concerns, the objections. You know, the wife's got to decide, and I'm not really sure about this, and not sure about that. Learning to deal with no's and objections, and then getting them covered around, and then finally move to that's where the straight line stays, and then you move on to close.
Very impressive, Dean. Someone who's just rolled out of bed. That was quite impressive, mate. And the number one rule with sales, the number one rule is people buy from people. Slow it all down. And he's charismatic, he's a good looking chap, and he's confident. So, he just didn't know we were going to be on here. I just said, I'm on a podcast. Do you want to jump on? He's like, yeah, let's go. Like, that is a great start to someone who could be super successful. So, he's my next prodigy. Let's see how we go. I'll give you an update in a few weeks, boys.
And Stu, again, just to just because I'm interested, as a part of your sales cycle, so you're going in today to have the meeting with the client. Can you just explain the touch points of the process they've had so far? Now you're going in. What's your CTA? What are you trying to get them to do off the back of today? And then when does the actual closure happen?
So this has been put in as a calendar entry. I know nothing about this customer, but the office have taken it on Salesforce. So we've got here Mr. Andy. I won't give his surname out. So his address, it's got desired outcome would be for 2 bedrooms and an ensuite. Sending over plans from a property that he has wants. They would ideally want to go with. Okay, so he's basically got a plan of another house locally that he's seen that he wants to copy. So I'll turn up and I'll look at that and go, great, let's have a look. And then I'll actually ask him what he's looking to achieve from it, who's going up there, what is his preference? Is he looking for a master bedroom, dressing room, ensuite, or 2 rooms for his kids? That will lead the conversation on different directions. We'll measure it to make sure it's success. I'll try and find out what he's thinking or what he's been told previously, and then I'll tear it up and we'll go up with a design that's going to be much better suited. And then I'll play on the fact that I've done over 2,500 lofts and been doing this for 20 odd years and set the class up in 2013. So I'll try and build confidence up that I know what I'm talking about. Then I'll try and come up with some creative light ideas and some things that make him go, oh, that sounds really interesting. And then I'll show photos to reinforce the fact that that's what I'm proposing is now coming to life. Then we'll go on the ground floor and I'll show him the space that he's potentially got up there because it's the same 4 walls as in the loft. People struggle with all the slopes and stuff to work out how much space they've got. Then we'll have a cup of tea. Then we'll go through the process and I'll talk about what's going to happen from now to receiving the quote through to following up with some customers, some reviews. If he's already seen or he's got a best friend that's had a loft done by us, I won't bother with that. If they're cold and if they've come from Google and they've just got us and 2 other quotes in, my number one job in the office will be to get him to speak to someone else who's working with us. On our Instagram, on Skylofts Limited, I've started to try to go around and preempt customers to say, look, do you mind if I capture our update? And I'm trying to capture the emotion of them having us in, because it's easy to get a load of Indian companies to write hundreds of reviews, but to capture someone's emotion when you walk into their house when it's been ripped apart and they're saying, oh no, it's been great, it's been easy to work with you guys, and they should be at the most stressful point, and they're saying that they're quite comfortable, happy, relaxed, and happy they use Skylofts, then that helps the sales quite good. Then it's price, and then I'll justify why our price is maybe a little bit higher than.
So wait, will you talk about price today though?
Yeah, I'll talk about. I'll ballpark it. I'll ballpark it. Say it's a 65 grand loft. I'll say, look, you're looking at 65 to 70, hopefully to come in under those numbers.
How are you coming to that? Because I'm assuming obviously you've got all the knowledge, so you can ballpark. But Alfie, how would Alfie learn how to do that?
It comes with experience. You wouldn't. All I would do with Alfie is I would give him a few case studies, which I don't need at the moment. But if he was to do this longer term, I'd do him 3 or 4 sort of our most typical lofts with the customer, the reason they purchased, and the purchase price, and then the list of bits that are external, so they can actually have a pack. I've got a pack in the car which I sort of show example lofts without the price, but I would then build a pack to go, this is a, like you do your HMOs, you go, this one was 120 grand refurb cost, or this one was 30 grand refurb cost. You could have sort of 2 or 3 different examples, and then it just price conditions. People go, that looks like my house, that sort of looks like what I'm asking for, that must be sort of what the price will come in at. So that will help Alpha until you've done 10, and then you start realizing and building a bit of a picture.
Because that expectation on price is important, right? If you went in there and went, yeah, it'd be about 60, and then the quotation comes in at 80, they'll go, whoa, 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 and you can end up wasting a lot of time, right?
If that happens, and it's not uncommon, then I ring the customer. So before I send the quote, I say, look, I've just got back to the office, I price condition you, but I completely forgot you're removing 2 chimneys, the ceilings are coming out, and it's a telebeam floor structure, 10 grand more than what a steel structure would be. I price condition you at this point of the process, and at the end we've added these bits in. It's coming about 7 grand more than what we were talking. I just wanted to give you the heads up, let you know it's coming, because what you don't want to do is just send it blind and then go, oh, it's 10 grand more than what you said it was going to be. And I try to avoid price conditioning more complicated jobs. I'll normally say to within the 10 grand, it's 120 to 140, but it will come down to some specifics. And then when I come back and it's 118, it's lower than expectations. But yeah, we'll go through prices because I don't want to waste their time or my time. It's like, look, you're at 65 grand here. Are you thinking 20 grand?
Well, I'm interested to know, Stu, because we've gone through this process this year and bringing in Neil now, who works with us, and we're bringing in. I've got an interview with a guy next week who's going to come in the sales side. And what me and Dad had to do is take what we just built as intuition in our head and then put that on paper as a bit of a sales framework to teach people. I'm guessing you haven't had to do that yet because you just do it naturally, right? You've just learned everything. Are you going to have to formulate that?
We had 6 salespeople before COVID. So 2018, 19, we had 6 sales teams. So I've got all that infrastructure. I've got the presentation, the deck, the bullet points. I don't need any of that, but I'll bring all that out of the archives and bring it up to the 21st century or 2026 and gear it up. But the thing is this is the point that I am the most passionate about, and it takes me a long time to trust someone to go in there as front of house and represent Skylofts in the best light. So, if it's great for Alfie,
no pressure, Alfie.
No pressure. If it's not right for him, it's not right for him. I will continue to do it. But if I can find the right guy to bring it in, the biggest mistake my old loft company made was I asked for shares in the business and they said no, basically. And I went, right, fuck you. And that gave me the drive to go on and do it. Remembering those lessons of how raw they were, I could have taken that business national for them. And they said no, because they thought they could do it without me. And then they had to bring 6 other salespeople in just to try and do what my output was. And then 10 years later, they went bust because no one knew what they were pricing or doing. So, more for them. But ultimately, I wouldn't make that same mistake. So if I can find the right person to lead the business forward, an equity play and building them in as a bit of a CEO, because that's what it takes at the front end, in my opinion, is all on the table. And I'm not in no rush to do it. I'm still young, but I need someone in the next 10 years to come in and run this thing if I'm going to keep hold of it and not sell it on. So yeah, I'm in no stress, but the guy's got the grit. And at 17, working, a couple of jobs and up for it, why not?
Give it a go, mate. Give it a go. Beautiful.
I think the biggest thing by far is, and which is important because we've like all of us, we've all had businesses young. I had my first proper business when I was 16, and I think you've either got drive or you don't. So if you've already if you're driven, Alfie, then you're already in a kind of different pack from most people. People can't really learn drive, in my opinion. That's what I found anyway. Unless all of a sudden they get this like eureka moment and something all of a sudden sparks up inside them. But then, in addition to drive, the biggest lesson always is, and I'm the same, and these guys are. I mean, but I've always got like books around me. I'm always learning. I'm always trying to figure out. Even here's a sales book right next to me. I play golf, but I only play golf from a business point of view, selling on the green. And I was at an event yesterday, and I was watching a film ages ago, and in that film there was a scene with, I think it was Kevin Hart film, and he was like, he was like teaching this guy how to be more charismatic, confident, etc. It was kind of like a sales thing, and he's like, basically in a conversation, if it's going off the track you don't want it to go on, if you're speaking to a woman, give her a compliment. If you're speaking to a man, throw in a random question, and it takes them off, derails them from what they're like coming at you on. If you don't want to talk about what they want to talk about. And I thought it's kind of stuck in my mind. I found it was funny, and I thought to myself, just for laughs, I'm going to try it out. I'm going to try it out in a real setting. It's and the event I was at yesterday, I was telling my team about it, and they didn't believe me. So we was in a conversation with a woman, and she was talking to me about something and asking me a question, and just to prove the point, I just threw in a compliment. I threw in a compliment. I was like, "Oh, by the way, I like your dress." Just after she asked me the question I didn't want to answer. And she's like, "Oh, thanks. Did you know it's from M&S?" I was like, "Oh, my mum loves M&S." But the whole conversation changed. And it went down there 5 minutes. And she forgot then what she even asked was talking to me about.
It's true, mate. Compliments. It's the same for blokes as well. Blokes like compliments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alfie's
Yeah.
probably thinking,
So
who the
always
hell
be
are you,
learning,
Free? Like, he
always be
just walked in,
trying.
he's probably never heard of it growing up, and he's like, these are different business owners. I'll
Yeah.
tell you about it in the car.
We're
Like,
Stuart's
yeah,
mentors.
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm
my
Stuart.
mentors,
I'm
yeah,
Stuart's younger brother.
they're my counsellors, basically.
I mean, that was a good little session. This is completely spontaneous for the pod. We just thought, chat about marketing and sales.
I pre-planned it, right? You just didn't know about it. It's spontaneous for you guys, but I thought it'd be quite.
I was actually going to throw in there. We talked about Jordan Belfort and his sales tactics. He's actually got quite a bad reputation, Jordan Belfort, because of everyone watches Wolf of Wall Street and thinks he's a bit of an animal. Yes, that's partially correct. But there's an interview where Grant Cardone interviews Jordan Belfort, and I would highly recommend you go and watch it, because Jordan Belfort absolutely runs rings around him. And it shows you how good Jordan Belfort would have been in his prime, because Grant Cardone is the known man for sales and profile, and it's really
Yeah,
good.
I would agree. I think.
I went to see him live once. One of my loft fitters bought it for me as a gift.
Yeah, it was
I went to see
awkward.
Grant
Jordan
Cardone
Belfort
didn't even
live
know
for
he was
nothing.
getting smacked. He looked like an idiot. Anyway, sorry, Stu.
Anyway, I was just saying, one of my loft fitters bought me a gift and took me to see Jordan Belfort, and I didn't really know anything about him too much. This was years ago, and I didn't really know anything about him, to be honest. And we're sitting there in the stand, and then someone's coming from the back, absolutely screaming and shouting at him, saying that he's ripped off his family and he shouldn't be doing what he's doing, and the whole fucking place erupted. It was pretty mental. I thought it was staged, to be honest. I was like, what the fuck's going on? And then after the show, then started learning about him, and then watched Wolf of Wall Street, and I was like, oh right, I didn't realise that.
Did he get anyone to sell a pen at the live event?
He did, I think, or he'd done something on stage, and he went through straight line system and all that. So, but yeah, it was all good. But I wasn't paying too much attention to him really. But I didn't realise how famous this guy was. But
It's probably one of the most famous salespeople just for sales. Is like I don't think there's many people that are. Maybe Steve Jobs is probably bigger, but he's more marketing.
Barry Scott. Barry Scott's pretty good at sales.
I know the name, but I don't know why I feel like you're joking.
George Foreman,
the Sillet Bang.
Yeah.
It's a joke. It's a joke.
No, I think the.
Hi, I'm Barry Scott.
Yeah. I think obviously like this
Can
ground.
we just quickly go back to the bank thing, because there's one more thing I really wanted to say about cryptocurrency that I never got to say. I know we've like completely gone off the subject.
I would love to not go back, because it's going to ding Stuart's
quickly.
profile for a week.
There's this thing.
Not being able to talk about this.
There's
He's going to be walking funny, going,
right?
I didn't get to say it.
It's got to be said. Getting serious now. It's got to be said. So from Trump being basically debanked effectively, they've got into government and they've now made the Genius Act. The Genius Act has been put through to say that stable coins can be used between businesses. And there was also a part of the Genius Act that said that stable coins can create yield through the exchanges, which the bank have completely missed. So now they've done this to Trump, the grit and determination for them to basically derail the banking system. The UK is obviously built on the financial services, which is why cryptocurrency is so taboo in the UK. But they've missed the fact that in America, if you can start using stable coins and create a yield from holding stable coins, you don't need a bank anymore, because you can make interest through the exchanges, which basically obliterates all the banks, which is really what is the trend that's happening here. And these guys are absolutely shitting themselves. They've paid their cards now. The figure I'm interested in is that once you become using stable coins, because it's friction free, you can move it around at a high frequency. It costs nothing to move around, rather than using the banking system that if you do something at 4:30 on a Friday, you wait until midday Monday to get your money, which is insane in the 21st century. But effectively, if you can use stable coins to move, it's only one click away from actually then understanding what Bitcoin is, and then people move their stable coins that's pegged to dollars into the hardest, scarcest asset on the planet. So that's really the big like macro trend that I'm watching. So I just thought that was important to say because it's happening, and I can't wait for it.
Debanks, literally since last week, it's been even more reason to go, right, let's just build the accounting infrastructure we want so that we can just hold as much in Bitcoin as possible and keep as much out of the banks as possible. Because you just feel like you're being constantly monitored and constantly accused of laundering money. And it's just like, well, fuck you guys. We're just gonna hold it off the network so you have no jurisdiction over it. And I think most people are gonna go that way if they continue down the path they're on.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do about the funds you need day to
under
day
the
for bill
85
pay
grand
and
insurable
stuff?
limit.
How are you
We
going
should
to deal with
just
that?
stay well under that. And if we've got money in there that doesn't need to be in there.
Oh, so you mean about moving
Yeah.
your stake?
Yeah. And even doing Bitcoin cash accounting, where we'll hold, we'll have to keep a certain provisional float in each trading account, and we always try and keep at least 2 to 3 months of overheads in the SPV accounts, make sure mortgage payments and things like that are there. But we're going to just keep as much of the rest of Bitcoin.
As like a general prudence cash like treasury policy, do you guys aim to keep like 1, 2, 3 months worth of overheads in the balance? You try to keep any months worth of direct agreed
3 months fixed overheads to
Can I specify one thing? In theory, we try 3 months. In reality, it's never there.
I actually do at the moment. I'm not gonna lie. We do at the moment. Because fixed overheads though, yeah. I don't account for every expense in the month, obviously, because that'd be mental for a construction business. But fixed overheads, so salaries, direct debits, insurance, financial payments, whether that's direct cause for that company or not. We'll try and keep at least 3 months of that in each account. SPVs were lagging a bit though. I'm not gonna lie. Some of those are squeaky bum time around the months and that, but all the trading companies are now.
We just try to be really, really cash efficient. So getting it in the right places at the right time and maximizing its return. So, if we can pay that down sooner and save X amount per month, but it might mean we're a little bit tight. But because we've got so many different businesses, even just going into the bank accounts and saying what have we got where, what needs paying when, it can swing so much now at our end. Against our fixed overheads. But yeah, in theory, 3 months is great, but we try and be more efficient than that and manage it more efficiently.
You feel like an established, stable, but
Say what,
still
mate,
growing
again?
business, Stuart Skylofts. What's your policy there?
My policy, D, is to store everything in Bitcoin. It beats inflation, and when you need to lean on it, you have to sell it and pay off any debts that you need to pay. I mean, I always like to try and keep a few months ahead. Obviously, the developments where they need extra cash or we need to buy 40 grand's worth of windows, up front and get them on site and don't get paid for 12 weeks, then we rely on equity or cash flows of Skylofts. The bank, we did overspend. We've scraped the barrel effectively with Skylofts to get that one done, and we're going for the refinance where we had to put £250,000 back in the bank, and that will make us feel a bit better. But ultimately, I've got my own personal reserves outside the company that I'll lean in on as an emergency fund. So that's how I run it. Is I've got cash outside the business that I can dip into. I haven't had to, but it's there, and a lot of it is stored. And then obviously I've got a strike account with SW Homes, which chips away frequently every week. I basically pull money out of the businesses to make sure it's always tight. So then when we do need a 40 grand, 50 grand VAT bill that needs to be paid, there's money there put aside, but I have to be the one to trigger it. So my accounts team will come to me and say, we need 50 grand. I'll be like, why? And that will then, they'll come with all the reports where the money's coming back from. And then I'll release the money. So it just gives me like a safety net. Otherwise, you give them full access to everything, they'll spend everything and then go, we got a problem, and that's just too late in the process. But yeah, I definitely get it out of fiat and into any savings. Get it out of fiat. 100%.
And what's the frequency that you guys get cash reports for your business?
Once a month. I'll have last month and then forward to. It's only 8 weeks, so our build programs, the lofts are 8-week builds. So they'll take the ones that are starting this month and give me the next 2 months when we're going to get that cash in. It's weather permitting. It's only a plan, but it gives us an idea of what the next 60 days, 80 days look like, 90 days look like.
We manage all. So we get obviously management accounts P&L every month, but we manage it at least twice a month. So every fortnight we go in, look at where everything's going.
Basically, my accounts team, there's 2 people who work on it because it's up to date every day. It doesn't. Some day, obviously, on the cash days, it requires a lot of time, but because it's so up to date, it doesn't require that much work. It's just part of their daily rhythm. And by the end of the day, every day, they have to email me the cash flow, which is a rolling 13. It fluctuates. It's between 9 to 13 because of the movements. Sometimes they might update it every week, but at least an average, a rolling 12-week cash flow gets sent to me every day. And on that, I'm looking. It tracks all of our income due in and the dates they're due in, and it tracks all of our known expenditure and any forecasted estimated expenditure, which we have marked in red. It has our fixed costs in there, our direct debits in there, salaries, like all that sort of stuff. It's just all in one place. Our
You
pipeline
tracking that
spend,
per day?
and I can look at that, and I
You're
can
tracking your
look to
costs in and out
see
every day,
and the
as
bank,
in like what's
bank
going on.
balances.
These direct
Yeah,
debits are going
yeah.
out today. These direct debits go out tomorrow. This cash coming in.
Yeah,
on...
but what I can drill it down to it summarizes it into a week for me, but I can drill down into the day if I want to. But it comes across on the summary page is a weekly every to show you the week and the breakdown, and the opening balance and the closing balance and the cash position. And what I'm looking for is for example, if I can see the closing balance for the week cash is going to be like 200 grand, and I'll see in that week that we've forecasted £1 million of revenue. That to me straight away is a risk, and I'll just have a look very quickly because it's all in one place. It doesn't take long. Where that £1 million of revenue's coming from, and if it's coming from like 3 big invoices, because I've got a finger on the pulse of the business, I'll look at that straight away and be like, is that going to happen? Or they'll mark it green to say whether it's confirmed or not. And if I'm like a week out and they got 200 grand closing balance and £1 million in, and it's not green, then I know straight away the very next morning that I need to check why the fuck that's not green. It's because that's a big problem. Do you know what I mean?
And how much time per day are you looking and reviewing that document?
Well, sometimes none, or less than 5. Because if I glance at the forecast, that the first check I do is that, and if the next few weeks versus the income and the income's green, then I won't need to, because we do have structured cash meetings on a weekly basis, and I'll just do it there.
1.5% a week of your 40-hour allocated time at work.
No, I would say that at the 10 to 15% of my time on a weekly basis is spent looking at and monitoring and forecasting cash. And it come from actually Grant Cardone years ago when he asked his business. He was on a podcast and he said that he gets a cash report sent to him every day, and I was like, huh, why can't I have that? And anyway, we built the discipline and processes now in the business where, like, it doesn't.
Tony Fidgley of the Berkeley Group did the same. He said, I think by the time he was pretty much 80 years old, all he would do is be in the office at 7 a.m., have his cash flow reports from the previous day. Is a good idea to have in construction companies, but it would actually be a waste of time for our business because there wouldn't be a lot of change in that day. Because ours isn't as active. If we've got a fixed price contract with a contractor, our project manager does a cash flow each month for the drawdown process, but we don't necessarily need to do that further layer. But Tony Pidgley would go in and he would have every single one of his sites cash flows like Dorian does, and that's all he did. All he did towards the end, just reviewed them, made changes where he needed to, challenged some overspend or variations. Obviously, if anything's on budget and on time, he leaves that. But he could track that daily, and then he would typically, if there's a problem, he would drive to that site. So if he noticed a variation on the site, he'd drive there, and that's what he did in his latter years.
And that for me, like, I'll know in the morning. It comes to me, and if I look at it in the evening, I'll know where the risk is of the business from a cash point of view, and obviously it's the lifeblood really for the short-term lifeblood of a business. And I'll know in the morning exactly what my first conversations need to be. Like, why isn't that income green? I know who to go to in terms of the contracts managers, the QSs, the finance team, and I'll also the expenses will be there. I'm like, why are we paying that now? Like, type of thing. Or the it's just bits like that. Or more importantly, like Stuart said, is how much money do I need to bring in from which different float? Because this is clearly a timing bridging issue I've got to resolve coming up, and I'd rather know that 4 or 5 weeks out rather than tomorrow.
But you boys crack on and
Enjoy,
see you next
Alfie.
week.
Get some sales in.
Hello, guys.
Yeah, fascinating, mate, that you do that daily. I've not even thought about daily being something that I'd need to do. I don't feel like I do. But
if you don't need to do it, you don't need to do it. But for me, and because construction, the reason why we do it is because it's the industry, not all business, and you need to do that, as Jack says. Um, but in our business, construction, and when you have a finance team that are responsible for in making payments and making payment lists and getting them approved, then I need to try to keep on top of that myself, and because it moves so much, like you said, like for us, because we have money coming in every week from different places, and we have money going out every day, then what's confirmed by the Monday may not will change by the Thursday, just because it happened yesterday. There's a £400,000 invoice that we were expecting in part of our forecast, and it was yesterday with the space of one email, it moved an entire week.
I could definitely see the benefit in doing it weekly for us in the construction company. Absolutely. Daily though, I feel like I'd maybe drive myself slightly insane. But I know you've got the infrastructure there and the accounts teams to have everything done, to the nth degree. So I suppose you get more value out of doing that. So I've got one thing I did really want to bring up about just employment data in the UK. This is going to be a very positive one. But this could be interesting for viewers who maybe don't look at this kind of data. Firstly, just a small thing. So average mortgage rates have dropped below 5% in the UK now. That's for particularly 2-year mortgage rates to 4.99%. So just a little bit of movement in the market there. But the thing I really wanted to touch on was UK job vacancies. Because for anyone that doesn't know, the country is becoming less and less and less employed, and there's less and less job vacancies for employment, which is a huge sign of the times for the economy. But caveat that, employment salaries are going up, which is really, really bad. That's how an economy heads towards stagflation super quickly, and it's not good. And the only reason wages are going up is not because of free market dynamics. It's because the public sector, the government, has forced those salaries up, and they've pushed up national insurance minimum wages. So there's an artificial push in the rise of wages in the private sector as well. So it's not because people want to pay staff more or because they can afford to pay staff more. It's a regulatory push that has forced wages to go up, even though there's less and less jobs month on month, in the thousands, and there's less people advertising for jobs. This is a really bad scenario for an economy. Like, it's not good. And just thought we'd touch on some data here. So job openings decreased by 5.8% to 718,000 between May and July across various industries. Average wage growth remained at 5%. Now that's a blend. Because I've actually looked at the data in slightly more detail here. There's a guy who did a really good video on it on YouTube as well. And actually, public sector wages have gone up about 5.7%, and private sector wages have gone up 4.8%. So the public sector is rising quicker than the private sector. So that there's a blended rate, but it's actually higher if you're in the public sector. And then here's a graph. So this graph is job losses over the last however many months dating back to Jan 22. And you can see here, since Labour came in, and then particularly since the budget, every month we've had a loss in jobs, a significant loss in jobs. That graph there says all you need to know about the state of the economy and the state of employment. And last month, so I think month of July was supposedly an 8,000 loss in jobs, but that's a distorted figure, because when you start to look at the data in more detail per sector for how many working people are in each given sector, you can see that almost every sector has gone down. Every sector significantly down in most scenarios, and if they are up even marginally, it's literally by, say, 127 that you can see here in this data for the financial and insurance industry, which is negligible. But where has it gone up? It's gone up massively in the public sector. So you can see there those three different columns with administrative and support services, public administrative and defense, social security, and education have gone up huge. So the public sector is employing in droves, whilst the private sector is losing jobs across the board. So that distorted figure of 8,000 lost last month, if you actually then add in all the public sector workers that have been employed as well, we're actually looking at more like tens and tens of thousands of jobs were lost last month. So they're distorted figures. And then another caveat is the ONS. you can see it, and there's another good graph for this. I just didn't bring it up, but there's a good graph that shows the ONS since COVID has consistently revised upwards their forecast projections consistently over 27 months. There's only 2 months revised downwards, which means the ONS has got fuck all idea what it's talking about, and they're meant to be the guys that know this stuff. And it would make sense that the odd month they're off, but since COVID, 27 months, every single one is uniform on this graph, and before COVID, it's the opposite. So there's an agenda here. There's something going on between the ONS distorting figures and politically they don't want the state of the economy to look so bad that people are losing jobs left, right, and centre. And you've got the public sector distorting those figures by hiring a shit ton of people. Like, it's just so abysmal. And that's the data. That's what I wanted to bring up. What do you guys want to talk about with this stuff? Because obviously it doesn't look good when we're losing jobs all over the place.
So what does that tell you? Obviously, you've done some analysis on this one. What does that tell you as a business owner? And
This owner can't really do a lot. It's more government-led movement, I think. It's obviously every company's being the
that's what I meant. Sorry, because it's like effectively uncontrollable. What do you do as a business to keep robust in those times?
Thinking about the employment stuff specifically, less the economy, I think it might not actually be too bad of a thing for a business that's doing okay right now, because like in the short term, because there should be a wider talent pool that's looking for jobs. And hopefully it means, your commerce packages and everything else can be slightly more amenable. Maybe it's slightly more affordable to hire certain workers, depending on what end of the spectrum and skill that you require. If you're trying to bring someone in to do kind of monkey's work for administrative stuff, well, now your NI and your base salary costs has been forced up by the government policy, so then it's more expensive to hire there. So there's definitely, I mean, I am so focused on automation at the moment to try and reduce the necessity to hire as much as possible. So that's, I suppose, one answer, a reactionary answer that we're trying to do. On the other side, if there's less jobs, people make less money. If people make less money, that means that you can't sell as much. Not particularly for our industry, but for the wider industry, people are going to buy less hospitality services. They're going to, which is one of the biggest employers, which is going to cause more job losses. And the cost of goods are going to go up in certain scenarios for companies to stay solvent. And most of the high streets might really struggle over the next year or two. And 1 million more people since Labour have been added to the benefit system. So then the burden on the economy as a whole and the net tax collect is going to go down, which is going to cause a huge stress on the economy, and the government's going to print more money. There's going to be no foreign buyers because we don't look attractive, so the treasury is going to buy it, and that's just going to keep this Ponzi scheme, this perpetual cycle of debt servicing up, and that will affect all of us in the long term with inflation. That would be my response. Jack, how would you respond to job vacancies going down, everything else?
Yeah, I mean, it's having a large unemployed population isn't great for the country or the economy, and there's very little that an independent company can do. I think automation and AI is an obvious one, and there's a lot of administration, we talked about before, paralegals work that can now be completely done by AI and integrating AI into your business. I think it's a good opportunity if you're in an area where it's scarce talent. So in our surveying business, it's really difficult to find decent surveyors. A lot of them are, employed by public companies, to deliver the likes of HS2 and things like that. So it hopefully will support skilled labour in those areas, and hopefully there will be more people willing to learn a profession and move into a profession. It would be really good to see a lot of that unemployment go into the construction sector, though I think we're struggling for labour, and we always have been, certainly for the last few decades and since we left the EU. I think we're finding it more difficult to get skilled labour in. A lot of our European blood was really healthy for the construction sector. It's clear that every business that can lean up has been leaning up. They've been looking at their workforce since national insurance went up, since the taxation went up, since costs have increased. They've looked at their teams, whether that be 10 people or 100 people or 1,000 people, and gone, where can we lean up here, muddle that with AI, and a lot of hopefully the teams that every business owner should have their team using AI themselves. It's not just Ryan's very forward thinking, putting processes and systems in place himself as a business owner, but your teams need to also be using AI, because then they're getting more efficient with their roles. That then means there's a surplus requirement of people working, and therefore you get obviously less jobs in the marketplace. So, but if Labour were to support business growth and boost activity in the market, which is how we think, well, I know that us on this call think is the best way to run a country, we would then potentially be in a place where we're in growth mode and hiring people to help grow our businesses. So I think the fundamental problem is with the government and not us as business owners, but from you as business owners, start integrating as much tech and automation with AI as you can. Get your team on AI as much as you can. And also, I think you do have to be a bit more diligent at where your hires are coming in. We think a simple hire is to hire an assistant to save you time. Ben's always made it clear that he'd much rather hire someone senior in his architectural practice than junior, because they're an automatic fee earner and it's easier to grow a business that way. And you've obviously got to look at the cost now of minimum wage, national insurance contributions, obviously now standard pensions. It's getting more expensive to deliver what we've always delivered.
D, how would you respond to your own question?
I don't know.
I don't know. It's too early in the morning.
No, I think, I can see, obviously, from my point of view, the construction sector and specialist roles are really difficult anyway to find. So if there's a slowdown in vacancies because of the cost of it, and it makes recruitment a little bit easier, hopefully, then I'm all for it. But obviously, wages costs are going up as well. I do see that the price of building is going up, and it's all kind of like spiraling. And you can see the cost to do a development nowadays in Wales to build social housing has already outstripped the cost to build what the private market can afford to pay, which isn't a sustainable place to be in either. Effectively, it always needed subsidy, but now it's to the point where, like in a lot of areas, they've got these housing waiting lists, and the private market basically cannot operate in that field because the sales price for houses is too low compared to build cost, and there's a huge problem there, which just means subsidy from government is required more and all that sort of stuff, and it comes back to government spending again. In terms of staff, though, I think what Jack says as well, if there's a risk, the whole risk with the cost of employment and is all about what can you do as a business to reduce the dependency on staff and making sure that the people who are working for you are as efficient as possible. But from a wider point of view, wide scale unemployment is bad. Obviously, reduces the amount of tax in, which puts more pressure again on the black hole that keeps coming up. I bet you any money by the time we come to spring next year,
We've already got
we're gonna
one.
have another black
41,
hole. We had one in
41
this
billion
spring.
heading into
Now we
this,
got
this
one in
autumn
this
budget. And really, it's
autumn.
more like 50.
Yeah, but no, they say 50. Obviously, there was one in spring as well, which was 20, and then they've done something. Now it's increased to 50. They'll do something now for this one, and by next spring, there'll be another black hole.
The more unemployed, the more civil unrest starts to happen. People getting pissed off. People can't feel like they can live on their own terms. People who went to uni or have had a good career or a stellar CV and they can't pick up a job because the market's just not there for it. That's going to create more reason to protest, more reason to riot, to loot, to just denigrate society in every possible way. So I just think it's just such a bad scenario. Yeah, people need to have purpose.
Being
People need to
busy
feel like
is
they can
just
earn.
good for the
People need to
mind,
feel like they
isn't it?
can save and be able to go on holidays and buy nice things. Like that's how the consumerist economy moves around. And literally, if there's losing jobs and less vacancies, it's a quick path in the rate as well that we're losing them. You saw that graph at the start. Couple that with all the immigration stuff and everything else that's going on, the suppression of online censorship and everything else. I just think we're headed in such a dirty direction. It's kind of fascinating in a sinister way. But yeah, I'm not looking forward to this budget, man. Just the closer we get to it, the more I'm like, fuck's sake, because I've got two big finances that need to land, and they're going to land around the budget. So I'm not too happy about that. But anything else you want to talk about, guys?
That's squeaky bum.
Squeaky bum, mate.
Darren's got to go do his hair.
Yeah, mate. Get a shower in, D.
I might try to. I'm trying to make
Yeah.
it look like yours, Jack. Can I borrow your
me,
comb?
me and you both can't do the slick back thing. I don't think. Head's
put in
not
the
built
post,
for it, you know.
Will.
Don't quite look as good. Head's not built for it, no. Big heads, that's right. It's brains,
Head's
though,
not
it's
built
all
for it.
Just to touch on then, before we close out, that we mentioned at the start of this episode, we'll have a live event, 9th of Jan. So really looking forward to that. We're also looking at doing a go-karting thing as well, which before that...
Well, we're not looking at it. We are doing it.
Yeah, that'll be in November.
Want to get an ass whooping.
Yeah.
Ass whooping. Jack's quite good at go-karting, actually. I think you won one of the times I've done one with you. But yeah, it's just gonna be a little social event. We'll chat shop as well. There'll be a bit of a brainstorm and go out for dinner as well after. So anyone wants to come along and talk business, property, whatever you want to come and enjoy, then we'll post all this on socials in due course, and it may be out by the time this episode's out. So just stay tuned on Ground Up Pod on Instagram, and obviously this is the YouTube channel. But big love. Thank you, everyone who's watched, and share the episode with anyone you think might find it useful. That really helps us when you share it, helps the algos, and we'll see you next week. Ta-ra.
Ground up sound.